Hi, I'm Curt Drew. Today we're going to be installing an energy recovery ventilator into this home. The technique we're going to use today is a self-ventilation installation, which means we're not going to duct the ERV or energy recovery ventilator to the HVAC system. We're going to self-vent it directly into the lower level of the home. The advantages of this type of installation is, number one, you don't need to be an HVAC contractor and pull a permit. This falls right in line with your radon credentials and your skill set there. Number two is you're not going to have to connect it to the HVAC system either, and then possibly alter the running time of your HVAC system. And the other great advantage of this is you can use a smaller unit because you're just addressing the lower levels of the home versus addressing the whole home. And so you can get away with a smaller unit to address the lower level, which is where the radon is, and also where a lot of the other indoor air quality issues are too. So you can go right at the issue. So we're gonna walk you through from the beginning to the end of how to install this energy recovery ventilator. One of the most important things when installing an energy recovery ventilator and when you're selling them is to make sure you pick a great location for your intake air supply and your exhaust. You need two locations. Now the intake that's going to come into the energy recovery ventilator needs to be located strategically. This is your fresh air, right? So you want to make sure it's the freshest air that can come into the home. You want to make sure it's not located next to where a car might be sitting idling because you don't want to bring in carbon monoxide. And you want to make sure it's not in the dirt or it could bring in some poor air into your house. So that's key. You also need to make sure that it's over 10 feet from any exhaust location from the house. So if you have HVAC exhaust or dryer vent exhaust to the outside, your intake air needs to be 10 feet from that, okay? So we found a good location with this home. We're gonna use an old coal chute here that is not being used anymore, obviously, and that's what we're gonna use for our intake. We feel that's a good location here because it's in a narrow part of the driveway where no car sits and idles, because if you did, the doors wouldn't open. So we know that this is a safe area for fresh air coming in. It's also, we'd like it a little bit farther off the ground if we could, but it's okay because snow doesn't build up here. The wind blows it away, and the homeowner shared that with us. So great spot for intake air. And then down here, well over 10 feet away, is we have the dryer vents exhausting outside. And so we're actually going to use this spot for our exhaust of our ERV. We're going to just go ahead and use a window right next to that, take the piece of glass out, put a piece of plexiglass in there, and then have our vent connection right to that. So that's our strategy for our intake and our exhaust of this ERV.
We're removing the glass pane from this window and replacing it with a piece of plexiglass with a hole through it. The plexiglass that we're using is actually a lid that we would use potentially on a sump pit, that type of plexiglass. So you may already have that for some of your installs. And then we make a hole in it, connect our vent, and then caulk that into place. With the coal chute, we used a piece of plywood and cut a hole through that and made it fit in there. And we're gonna go ahead and put our vent into that plywood and route it inside the house. And we made sure we insulated the back side of that plywood, and we caulked the other side as well. And then we're just going to paint it and get it all sealed up.
This is the Renew Air EV90. And so this is a 90 CFM ERV. And this is your core, and we're going to show you how this all works. This is the mounting bar that comes with the unit. And this is what we use to connect it to the wall. It comes with 4 of these connectors that we mount to the ERV to connect our ductwork to the unit. And it also comes with the screws you need. So really everything inside of the box. And then in addition, you want to buy a timer, and this is a PTL timer. It's a percentage timer, and we're going to mount that to the unit, and we can set the run time based on this timer. And there's other timers available and controllers available as well. We'll use this to mount it to the unit. So those are the things that you need for the ERV. When routing the ductwork from the ERV to the outside and also internally, you're going to use flexible insulated duct, okay? And so here's two examples. You have right here an 8-inch R6 value duct, flexible ductwork. And then here's an example of R8 6-inch ductwork. Obviously, the larger ducting, an 8-inch duct, will give you better airflow. Okay, so better performance of your system. 6-inch isn't horrible. You still have pretty good airflow with that, but less than the 8-inch. And then with this R8, that's a higher insulation value than the R6 over here. So those are the types of options you're looking at when you're installing your flexible ductwork. You do need to have a minimum of R6 flexible insulated ducting running to the exterior of the home. So your intake from the outside into the ERV needs to be insulated, and the exhaust to the outside needs to be insulated as well. Otherwise, you'll have condensation issues. Now, the two ducts running from the ERV internally, like into the HVAC system, or in this case where we're direct venting it, those don't have to be insulated, but we're going to use flexible insulated ductwork anyway because it's just easier to work with than hard piping the ductwork. So in addition to the flexible ductwork, you're going to need some other supplies to install the ERV. These are connectors that can be a 90 or different shape. That's how you're going to connect your flex duct. So I recommend getting several of those for your install. You'll at least going to need probably about 6 of those. This is a Y connector, and I also have a T connector. Okay, when you're doing a direct vent or even a connection to an HVAC system, you may want to use this Y connector to split that fresh air coming into the house. So you split it and you go fresh air over into this room, fresh air into that room, or fresh air into the HVAC system, fresh air into the basement. You can split that using a Y or using a T fitting, okay? Now, you may also want to connect and vent your system into another room using a grill like this and connecting your flex duct to that to go into a finished space from an unfinished space. You're also going to need some dampers to control the airflow, so it's a good idea to order some of those. Obviously, these are clamps to clamp down the flexible duct, and then this insulated wrapping is great to have to just shear up any spots you're concerned about the insulation, and of course some duct tape. So those are the things you need to do the ERV install from a supply standpoint.
Before we hang the ERV on the wall, it's a good idea to go ahead and connect these 4 duct connectors, and then go ahead and connect your wire right now to those 2 screws. This is 18 gauge thermostat wire that you're using, and just go ahead and get it connected now because it's a lot easier to do it now than doing it after you have hung the unit on the wall. So here I'm drilling our initial holes to anchor the unit on the wall. And we're mounting the plate, the mounting plate. Hanging the unit and marking our holes above the unit for the next anchors for the wall. It's important to note that an ERV can be hung on the wall, on a ceiling, sideways, upside down, any way. It does not harm the performance of the unit. Here we're connecting our fresh air intake ductwork to that vent that we're coming through the coal chute. And so I'm using the clamp to clamp the ductwork to that vent, and then I'm basically cutting our ductwork to size, clipping off the wires and connecting it to the vent connector on the ERV. We've insulated the back side of that plywood that we're using for our ventilation intake, and we've completed our complete intake run. Now we're going to focus in on installing the exhaust run. You can see we have our tie straps already set up for this ductwork, and this is the path we're going to take to the outside, and we're going to exhaust it right there and connect our flexible ductwork up to that connector. But first we're going to go ahead and install a damper. And we like to put dampers in on the exhaust in case we need to close that to create more positive pressure with our system. If we restrict the exhaust air, we bring in more air than we're taking out, thus creating positive pressure in the structure, and that'll reduce your radon levels in the home. For this one, we're just going to go ahead and leave the exhaust completely open, and we're going to go ahead and finish our ductwork run on this up and through the wall there, and then out to the outside. Next, we're going to install our vents that run inside the home. This is a location where we're going to be blowing fresh air into a finished room over on the other side of this wall. So as you can see, we're going to have our ductwork run right through that wall and then connect a vent grill on there to blow the air through. And we're going to run our flexible ductwork up through the wall right there. As you can see, we already have another vent installed there. That's going to be where we're drawing our room air, and that room air is going to flow then through the ERV unit too. So that's how this works. We've got fresh air blowing in, the room air blowing out from inside the house, and then we have our fresh air coming in and our exhaust going out. So really those 4 flexible duct runs we're installing. The last step is ensuring that our electrical is connected using our thermostat wire from the unit. On this install, we just went ahead and mounted the PTL timer next to the unit, and then we can control the runtime. For a radon situation, we like to have it run 100% of the time, but the homeowner can adjust this based on their comfort level. And that's it. That's how we install the ERV for a self-vented installation.